Salam, everybody. Once again, this is your epic journey historical review uh, through the African journey from a concept that we call Karing'a, and a concept that has a philosophy, an ideology, principle, and values. The main idea is to give facts of the truth about the African historical experiences that misses in our uh, Western syllabuses in our schools. And by, we really appreciate all the support that we are receiving in every episode. Thank you so much. Today we come courtesy of Kenya Kin, the true African spirit, and we continue to urge you to subscribe to the YouTube channel Isaac Moirore and like, comment, and if there's any erroneous message or something that you've not understood, kindly let us go on the comment section and we will engage from there. Thank you so much. Today we will be looking at the origin of mankind, and of course later, but we're going to continue from where we stopped last time. We looked at the African kingdoms, and these African kingdoms were vast, were diverse, just like Africa is today diverse in one nation. I think it's only in Somali that you'll find one tribe, but in other African nations, you'll find different tribes, and these tribes were nations, and within these nations there were systems, and all these nations at some point were within a kingdom, and that's what we looked at yesterday. We shall look at few African nations, especially those from Kenya, in their status as nations, and we'll be able to understand that even the concept of nation or nationhood was there even before colonization. And so the African kingdom and nation development was disrupted, like I said, in what we are calling 800 years of subjugation and oppression by our fellow brothers and sisters, ancestors from the West. Africa was truly divided during the scramble for Africa by the Western Europeans, and they actually divided themselves different regions, like we had mentioned earlier with regard to Guinea and Guinea-Bissau, Equatorial Guinea, and to the far overseas, the far region of the Papua. So this is what was called colonization, actually crafting a geographical boundary that was called a colony. And the reason for colonization is mainly to expand your territory, and it doesn't matter how many seas you crossed, the people whom were within colonies were your subjects. For very many years, sub-Saharan Africa had never experienced this kind of colonization, because if you look at the Karing'a nationhood and the experience of people even before Karing'a, like the Kikuyu nation, you will find that nobody worked for their fellow human beings. This is a concept of subjugation and oppression, and it has been developed into systems and structures. And that's why you find people working today. But if you ask yourself, who are you working for? You'll find your traces, um, either back or ahead to a person's, an individual's interest. And so, to me, the idea of getting a job is actually an idea of willing slavery, slaveriness. And sometimes it is because the systems that have been developed where you're supposed to buy almost everything, and so you're forced to work. You don't have a choice. But those who have choices will choose to hustle and work for themselves through, though you'll still work with other people's resources for you to make your own. And so the system is actually one we can call catch 22. Whether you are employed or you're self-employed, you're still working not only for your interest but the interest of another person. Now, when the Europeans sat down in Berlin in 1895, like we have mentioned adversely before in our previous episodes, they crafted Africa according to their might and power. And you will find that the Germans, because they were also powerful, the Germans divided themselves, um, what we call Cameroon, uh, Namibia, Togo, Tanzania, and some part of southern Kenya. And this became their territory. And the French also hedged out what is largely West Africa, places like the Western Sahara, on the western part of Morocco, um, places like Tunisia, Mali, Algeria, even Morocco itself, places like Senegal, and places like Guinea, Ivory Coast, Niger, Chad, Central African Republic, and places like Gabon, and far to the Indian Ocean, also Madagascar. So the French had a lot of grounding, and it will have been expected for the Portuguese and the Spaniards to have received lion's share of West Africa. But that wasn't the case. They got limited because they were here, in the 14th century before everybody else. But anyway, that's how they divided themselves. And the Britons, fortunately or unfortunately, had the lion's share of Africa. They had my country, Kenya. They took a country in West Africa like Nigeria. They took Egypt. They also took Sudan, Libya. They also took some parts of Uganda, because Uganda was a bit like a protectorate. So they took Uganda. They also took a large chunk in southern Africa, like the Tswanaland, the Botswana. They took South Africa itself, Lesotho, Eswatini, Zimbabwe, Malawi, Zambia, and also in West Africa, like I said, Nigeria and Gabon. And so this was the what we can call today Commonwealth. That's what it is called, among other colonies that were outside Africa. And so they continued to divide amongst themselves, like Belgium, which again was in Africa, especially in the Congo, as early as the 15th century. They were the first people to bring slavery in that deep um, uh, mainland of Africa. And unfortunately, when we are studying missiology, there is a tendency of trying to curtail the reality of servants of the church, like the priests and the bishops and the pastors, who were involved in these expeditions of slavery, and of course the grabbing of what they called new lands in the Americas, in Africa, and the Australias, and which, in my view, is not right. Um, these men of God, to me, failed in their calling, and it is something that can also be observed even today among the preachers of today. It has been there is a sublime tradition being inherited even with the victims who are in the same field of work or social occasion. And unfortunately, Congo really suffered a lot under Christians. All these people who were doing colonization were largely Christians. But remember, during the Enlightenment age, from the 13th century, people were questioning religion, just like in the ancient Greek society. They questioned their ancient religion, and this was a revolution and a change that was happening in many countries, and many nations, and among European communities. But it had not reached Africa, because Africa was consistent and did not have those radical ideologies, and there was no need for fighting, because, like I said, we were monists, and truly pure monists, who did not dissect our social outlook in different categories. That was not part of our philosophy, and it was never part of our principle. So they took Belgium at some point. Congo. They took Belgium to Congo, and at some point Congo was known as Belgium Congo. And so they also took Angola and Congo Brazzaville, though Congo Brazzaville has been exchanged between the Belgium and the French. So it is something that really needs more research, because there is a part of Belgium that speaks Neds or Dutch. There is a part of Belgium that speaks French. Um, so the Portuguese, whom I thought would also get a lion share, ended up with a part of Angola and Mozambique, which was, I think, in the eastern coast, and it was not contested by any other. Though Mozambique was a very strategic Port, Portland with regard to the Indian Ocean Maritime. Um, so that is pretty much how Africa was divided among the Europeans, and that's why Africans, whenever the rich Africans want to visit, they'll always visit overseas where their masters hailed from. If they get sick, they go to their masters' hospitals, and largely the people who are in government who suffer from identity crisis will always seek for uh, their master's counsel, uh, their colonizers. They will also seek for their master's aids to help their people. But the, just like in the colonial period, the system is the same. We actually inherited these, and that's why most of us feel that we never got any independence. What happened is that the monkeys now changed from the visiting monkeys to the indigenous monkeys. Because if you say that you are helping people, building schools and hospitals, and you yourself do not have a trust in these institutions, your children study abroad, you go abroad for medical attention, it is unfair, and it is a broken society and a broken system that does not work. So thank you so much, and have a good one. Remember, keep it African and be a true African.